Hello and welcome to another weekly live stream. This week we're going to just be continuing kind of like where we left off. I did work on it this week obviously, so we're farther along. But yeah, we're just trying to finalize all the AI stuff so we can get it in the real game and maybe get a release out with like actually smart creatures like that don't just wander around in a circle. Yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Scrolling there in the lower left are the lovely patrons, which help keep the lights on. Just finished taxes this week, so that was good. I actually almost broke even this year. Last year I made a little teeny bit of money over expenses, but this year I actually took a loss because all the domain stuff hit at the same time, same year. Some of that stuff hits every 2 years, and some of it hits every year, and this was a year that everything hit at once between domain hosting and all that crap. So fun, good times. Yeah, because this is like one of the better years we've done Patreon wise. Anyway, yeah, so I probably don't need to have the Drost effect up there. Yeah, so this was the to-do list we were working from last time. I did modify the nav function to be, I think it's actually path now. We can look. That was a bit of work. Yeah, a path to path. Yep, path to path. So, given a path, it gives you a bunch of paths. That allowed me to... The heuristic calculation is part of the nav function. The reason this turned out to be even more important is because the nav function, which is creating the paths, is also creating the actions. And only the actions know how much it costs to do something. And what the heuristic is supposed to be doing is it's supposed to be estimating the remaining cost to get where you're going. Now, the issue we found last time was that the nav function, which basically says, you are here are all the different places you can go and the actions you can take to do that, like opening a door, walking through, or stepping up a step, or jumping down, or whatever. It doesn't know where you're going. So the nav function doesn't know where you're going. It's just answering the question, hey, I'm here, what's the next step I can take in any direction, right? And so the Pathfinder has to actually do the heuristic calculation. So that's actually, the nav function is responsible for telling you now what a heuristic is, but it's the Pathfinder that's managing this now, and to do that, the Pathfinder had to be able to ask the, let's see, how's it work? The heuristic, so now the target condition, which is telling you where you're going, which can have more than one target, which is why it's hard. You can't just say, what's the distance to my target? Well, which target? And so now the target condition can tell you, hey, based on this current path, what's your estimated target? If you've got a single target, this is easy to answer. If you've got multiple targets, it figures out what the closest one is, that kind of thing. And so then it guesses, like, what's the estimated target? And then from that, we can ask the nav function, okay, here's my position that I'm heading towards. Give me the estimated cost. And from that, we calculate the heuristic. And so everybody's happy. And what that means to what we were working on last time is that the Gafen, who is supposed to be stupid, he'll make a straight beeline for something, whereas other things will go around, right? So let me show you what I mean. Come on. So, the other thing I'm going to want to do is turn off. So let me create the human female. And I've got the nav shapes, the probes enabled, center the camera, and let me turn that off real quick. Doink. False. Actually, surprisingly, got a lot done this week now that I'm thinking back to it. I did also finish playing that game Styx, so that is no longer a drain on my time, though it was only taking my normal nighttime YouTube time. It was something that was occupying my brain. okay, so if we went to the navigate and we say, you know, hey, go to the anvil and show me which, you know, what the pending steps are, and you can see she heads like in kind of a wide swath. She's looking for different ways to go, and so she'll cut a wide swath, and she eventually finds her way through the door, right? And so if instead we create a Gafen who is supposed to be dumber, right? He's just an animal, and we tell him to do it. He's going to be this one. So navigate, start. So we tell him to do it. He's going to try to head pretty much straight there, make a straight shot. And I can tweak this a little bit to not go backwards. The other thing is he's not going to explore very far out of that line, which is something else I was able to add to eliminate the, I think, to eliminate the paths. Yeah, when the, if the heuristic returns infinity, then it will call us. If we start stepping by a lot, so he's trying to make a straight beeline towards where he's going, and he will run out of, see, he's starting to run out of possibilities because he can't go too far out of the path, and so he won't actually find a path because he can't open the door either. I want to actually add a like a little doggy door, because like the Gafen are short enough that they should be able to fit under a single block, and so we need to make sure he navigates. So that's getting ahead. I'm getting ahead of myself though. So that was the Pathfinder stuff we were doing last week, and so this we can say is done, and we like our green, right? So we're gonna make that green. Actually, just do this. So we like still need ability to override heuristic situationally. Do we? No, I don't think so. This is totally true now, though. Need a use case. Okay, so we got that. So this is an so then moving on. This is an item I added after last week because one of the things is like so now I will turn back on the probe shape. Let me actually delete. You guys have seen this before. The probe shape. So this is what it uses when it's querying the nav function, like when it's querying around to see where you know, the female can go. But before, like, this was coded into the actual Groovy script, right? This was not standardized. This is like literally I'm just hand cobbling one together, and there wasn't one for the other character types. And so I was like, well, I'm going to need something in the rigging tool probably to set this up, because for every character it's going to be a little different, right? And these colors mean something like blue means you're stepping down. Green means you have something to stand on so that you can, like if you're trying to decide if you can walk forward, yes, there is something for you to stand on. It's not just open space. And so that's a different, I know that's just a regular walk action, whereas these are the places you'd have to step up to get onto, and these are the places you'd have to jump up to get onto, and these are where you just plain get blocked. You can't walk through there if your head can't go through. And so that's what those are supposed to mean, and that's how the nav function works. And there's going to be some tweaking to this because I think that probably the jump up could be one taller. Anyway, each character will get this, and it'll be tweaked and so on and so forth. But these, I can also use this for the probing, so like to put it a little bit ahead of the character as they're walking to figure out what they're about to run into and why, right? And so in certain cases I can ignore certain things and so on. So I needed this in the editor, and so that I added that to the to-do list. Oops, not that one. So I added that to the to-do list, and that's what I've been working on this week. And we can see that in action if I go over to the rig. So let's look at the model. So there's always been this model tab, which will provide you info about the model, but I added this thing down here, which lets you configure the physics probe. And so if we open one of the rigs, like the human female that we were just looking at, we see she's got her probe configured, and that's actually the probe that's being used in the game right now. So this did not update. Oh yes, it did. 1.6. If I can't read that, I'm guarantee you guys can't read it. But so you can configure, you know, how many cells are in here, what layers, how many layers of each of the different types, and you know what the rig height is in this particular, you know, scale of, you know, 1.0 scale. What's the rig height? And so I went and I did this for all of the different things. So the Gaffin's got its own little probe shape. Even the dog, and the dog's a little weird right now. You can see how this shape is perfect right here. Right, it covers the dog, but as it turns out, the center of the dog is not the center of its body. It's actually, it considers this root right here to be its center. So it pivots around the shoulders. And so this actually is not a good collision shape for the dog. And you'll see that if we go back over to the playground. I do like that I can switch back and forth, though I wish it would remember my camera position. And so if we create a dog now, we'll see that the collision shape is not in the right place. So I need to add like a Z offset as well. Although it is nice that it covers his head. So that is something that I'll have to work out. Quadrupeds are going to be an interesting one anyway. Because the other thing is the pathfinding. Like if we were to do, I wish it would sort these by entity ID. So if we were to do this for him, and actually he will try to open the door, though he can't actually get through it. He doesn't know he's supposed to be dumb. And so if we show the queries, so that's showing you the queries that are run, but you can see that they're all oriented in the same direction, even though some of those actions are, you know, walking this direction or walking this direction, and it doesn't rotate the probes. So in order to do asymmetric probes anyway, I've got to tweak how the nav function works. So that's something I'll have to fix. But for now, like the dog, all of the things, all of the shapes, all of the different mob types have their that's unfortunate. Like if we bring up the Gaffin, he's already got his special little probe shape, and his probe shape's short enough that if I think if we had a gap here, he'd find his way through. I'm tempted to add one, but anyway, the point is now we have this actually encoded in a way that's loadable in the game and usable in the game. Like this function is no longer used in the prototype, so that's kind of cool. And this is kind of where we're heading today, which is to take this and not just use it for the nav function, but as the character is walking, use it for collision avoidance, and that's what we'll be working on today. Which brings us to now. Well, I'll start working now. Yeah, the soda is backing up the straw again, and it's not straw specific. I think it's soda specific. For whatever reason, some combination of straw size, straw chemical makeup, and Pepsi consistency. When the Pepsi is brand new and open, the foam crawls back up the straw and drips onto my desk, which I keep a little napkin underneath. Anyway, I hope you all had a productive week. I had a super productive week. I was able to like knock a bunch of stuff that had been weighing me down off my shoulders between taxes and last week I finally got my car situated with the inspections and stuff, and so like we're all good now. I think the only thing I have hanging over my head is to resolve some stuff with my retirement account, but there's no fuse on that. Well, I mean, retirement eventually is the fuse, I suppose, but that's a long ways off, unfortunately. So what do we want to do? We want to turn off this. I demonstrated my progress, which means we can come in here. We can add some more dones. We did done. Okay, and now we need to resurrect. That we also have done. Leading an interaction with path following. Yeah, so this is the other one where we will run into issues, and I talked about this before, is if we know she's taking a path that's going to require her to step up, the probe is going to try to keep her from walking to that step. So there needs to be some interaction between the action that's walking the waypoints and the probe to tell it, hey, yeah, pay attention to all of the step-ups until we start to get close to this, and then don't pay attention anymore. I actually think that maybe the actions will take care of it, because the nav function wouldn't have let us get too close to that. Oh, no, so as it comes close to a particular path thing, I need to suck the probe in, is what it is. I think universally that's true. So what I mean is, let me go ahead and tell her to go to sleep. She won't actually go to sleep, but I'm going to cancel it when I just see the path form. So she got this path, and it had her, so it's got her stopping here so that she can do the step-up action. And it wouldn't have let her get any closer than she can get, but if we were leading her by a probe, the probe would interact with this and she'd try to steer away from it. And so I think universally what we can do is, A, the probe should be only extended in front of her based on her current speed, but also if the walk waypoint action knows it's getting to the end of its particular list of waypoints, it can signal to also suck that in. So basically we need to be able to control the probe, and this will be good too because there are times where she may walk backwards and we'll want the probe to be behind her too. So I think that's the level of interaction, but first we've got to get it to work at all, and so we're gonna have to resurrect some old steering code, and the idea being that when when she's steering around, I can't draw today. Okay, so how steering code works is we know, for example, the straightforward way, we know she wants to get here and she's facing in this direction, right? So we calculate how far this is off of here and how far it is away from her, right? And we use this, whether it's left or right of her, to set whether she turns left or right and how much, and then also whether she accelerates or decelerates. So as she gets closer to something and this distance gets smaller, she'll decelerate a little bit so that she kind of arrives there and just doesn't stop suddenly. And how quickly she decelerates is parameter of the the steering itself. But so within this, then we have the other thing, which is if there's something here, we have another, so we've stuck this probe out here and we know she's about to run into that, and so then we need to apply another steering force this way to get her to turn a little bit this way, and then we need to combine these in a way so that they still work. And usually what it is that if you kind of how did we do this before? So if I'll have to look at the old code because in the simple case, right, you'd want to always pay attention to the collision avoidance, but there are certain cases where you're already so you're already steering towards something, and if we were steering towards something back here and the collision avoidance told us to turn, but steering towards here told us to turn more, we'd want to just ignore the collision avoidance because it's not telling us anything helpful because we were already going to turn more than it did. So if the steering is in the same direction and already more than contact avoidance would tell us to do, we pay attention to the steering. So there's a way to combine these values, and we did it before. A, we did it before in prototypes like this, and B, actually the game works this way right now, only it's using a sphere. So possibly we can steal the existing steering code, though the combination of the steering code was done in like the physics driver for the particular character. So but that's the gist of it, right? So we want to figure out when we're about to hit something or we're about to step off the edge of something. So if she was up here trying to pathfind over here and just happened to walk, let me move over here. So if she was, well, actually I can make her stand there. Let's just make her stand there. Jog, 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 jog. So let's say she was standing here and she's worked out a path to get over here. Actually, I wonder what path she would take if we told her to sleep. Got to be really hot on the cancel. Okay, so she would head down here. But if it was having her take down the stairs, it's possible that following the path would have her cross over this corner in such a way that she would fall down and maybe into a pit where she could not get out of. And so in addition to, just watching for things in front of her, we want to watch for places she would drop. And one of the problems that I always had before was, who handles the stepping up and stepping down, and how does contact avoidance work with that? And by moving all of the, am I stepping up? Hey, happy Saturday. It's still yeah, that's right, it's Saturday. It's still Saturday, yeah. So there was always this question, and I kept flipping back and forth whether, just the regular, I'm moving forward, should I automatically step up or step down? But then you've got like this weird sort of back and forth between, the collision avoidance and whether I step up or step down, and it's all contextual, and what if I'm trying to walk up the steps? And so by moving all of the step up and step down or jump up into the navigation graph, the pathfinding, then she already knows whether she's going to be stepping up or stepping down. See, she already knows she's going to be stepping down in these cases. And so when stepping down, we can just ignore those particular results in the pathfinding. So there's going to be some interaction between these movement actions. Yeah, that's a really garbage path she chose. I don't even think she can walk this, to be honest. Oh, yeah, she won't. Oh, shit, I gotta redo it. Oh, nope, because it wasn't a nav. It was a brain. So let's try again. I just want to see what she'll do because I think she's gonna fall. So I mean, there's lots of things to work out here, but okay. So she's gonna walk down the thing. Yep, and then she'll step up. Oh, she did it, even though she was kind of hanging off the edge. Okay, so she's heading up to the bedroom. Yeah, bounce up the stairs. I gotta still work up on the step up action. And she's near the bed. Okay. Okay, I gotta get her to go back to work so that we can get her out in the open again. I'll cancel it when she gets out because I don't have the weight. Only the characters can open and close doors. I can't, so I can't get her out again by manually walking. I need to add some ability to do that. So anyway, she'll head down and we'll head back to about where she was when we started all this garbage. Okay, so we'll cancel there. Yeah, so we need to work on collision avoidance. And I still have that other playground we could play with that had like mazes and stuff, which we could go back to messing around with instead of this one. That might be interesting too, except for it wouldn't, yeah, it would still have the objects. But she wouldn't be able to navigate to them. So we'll stay here for now. I think we can work out everything we need to work out here. And so the other thing is I also want her to scan ahead a little bit on this path and walk towards some value ahead. We had that working in the old code as well. Okay, so what's next? Let me look at the to-do list. Leading debug view, yep. View queries, yeah, we don't worry about view queries yet. I'm just trying to get characters more mobile at the moment. One of the big problems with the mobs in Mythruna now is that they can't step up or step down, and they can't walk up ramps. And so when a Gafen or a dog ends up down a hill, they can never get back up again. Even though they try, they'll just hit the wall and stop. Alright, so what next? We need to think about the collision or avoidance and probably steal code from the old steering system. I also may make the new steering... Well, I can do that later. I was thinking to maybe not have it fire every frame, but perhaps it's going to have to anyway. Okay, so let's see what we did for steering avoidance here. I've got an itch on my back that won't go away. If you see me reaching my hand back. Alright, so... Boink, boink. Yeah, so site perception and personal space. These are generators we're going to have to add to get existing functionality, but that's another night probably. So this is the code that's in Mythruna now. Near contact steering. If there are near contacts, then we will defer to those. Right, so this is if we're hitting something directly. But I don't know that we would need that if we're bringing in the probe when we're slowed down. And here's the probe. So the probe was actually an object, and it could calculate its own steering value. And then, yeah, here's what I was talking about, how we apply the probe to the movement. So even the mobs, they move just like a player would, in the sense that they've got their own kind of WASD controls, right? Only like they're more like a joystick. So like instead of just hitting left and right, and then when the player hits left and right, they strafe, whereas when a mob hits left and right, they turn. And it's like a joystick, so they can turn a little or a lot, or they can move forward a little or a lot. And so that's what this movement input thing is, which the players have like an identical version. It's just interpreted differently. Because if maybe people don't know this, but you can control the character in Mythruna with a joystick as well, and so you can walk slowly or fast and all that other stuff. Okay, so we want to take this code, I think, from the probe and repurpose it. And that's interesting that it has this reset here before we use it again. And I think I did that. So basically this clears out. So we call query contacts, which is going to take that probe shape, whatever it is, query the physics engine for anything it ran into, and give us the results, which there could be many, many results. But we don't clear them after. We keep them for a while. We keep them until the next frame, which then we reset and do it again. I think I did that so that there's time to make a debug shape, which we'll want to do also. But also it means that if we only probed like every 5 frames, like what 20? Well, If we did it like every 10 frames, it'd be 6 times a second, right? And it could just keep persisting the previous query. It would just, and so we could still use it to calculate the steering, but only update the query we did. Except for the probe wouldn't have moved. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that today. There are so many performance problems. Oh, I'm sitting on my... There are so many performance problems in Mythruna right now that this is like putting the cart before the horse. I have other way bigger things to fix if I'm really worried about frame-to-frame performance. Yeah, I was playing the game earlier just to goof around. I'm trying to start making costumes for bad guys, or like figure out what the bad guys will be. And so I made like a really dark blue, purple-skinned elf with red hair, try to see if that looked sinister or whatever. And I was just wandering around the world, and of course, most of the time when you wander around Mythruna, it's pretty good until you cross like one of the big tile borders, and it has to generate, a whole bunch of new terrain. And then you'll get a bit of a lag there. But when you are walking around a lush forest, there's the sheer number of birds and butterflies that it's spawning in. You almost can't move around without like frame drops all over the place. And so I need to really make the random encounter system more efficient. It's just, even though I've like shoved it off to different threads, it's still bogging the system down. And it could just be my old computer can't cope. I did actually buy a new laptop this week to do music production with, but I've been tempted to run Mythruna on it to see how it works. I'm trying to make like a portable studio that I can take to where I need to record things, rather than this one here that obviously can't go anywhere. Also, I have a really good room in my house for recording. It's very quiet as long as nobody's doing laundry, and it is far away from any computer. So that's where my drums and some other instruments are. And so I'm gonna turn that into a little mini studio downstairs. Anyway, that's aside. We're busy doing something else here. So probe is a probe. How cleverly named. So probe offset. That's something yeah, so it's very straightforward. It's just a sphere. And each one had its own different one. Okay, so here is the probe. Hey, I was smart and I at least took an M-block shape. Let's steal all the code, which mostly is commented out. That's kind of cool. So we will mediatedly delete the commented out stuff. My oldest child used to watch this like Garfield spoof on YouTube. I don't even remember what it was called, but John, make me some lasagna mediatedly. It's just really funny. So I like that mediatedly for immediately stuck with me. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. You should go watch it mediatedly. It says all the crate dagger stuff. I'm trying to figure out where I want to put it in here. Yeah, let's keep it up with this stuff. Maybe after bipedal movement. Yeah, before body context. Sure. Okay, so let's see what part we keep and what part we don't. Class probe. Yes, it will have a shape. No, we don't care about radius. I don't think we care about orientation or offsets. I guess if these are temporary values, but I 100% don't care about radius. Yes, the filter. I don't think we need orientation. I think we will want offset just so that we have something to not have to oh, that would be position. Yeah, so these are like the runtime values. Contact avoidance. Yeah, this is why I deleted everything out of here, is because I moved it all to another class. That's why it's so small. Contact avoidance is where the real stuff is done. And so that's what we'll want to quote-unquote steal. So let me see how, because that's maybe no longer true. So I have to see implements a steering primitive. Yes, we will want these. They're temporary values that we'll use over and over again. Calculate them per frame. Yeah, contact bookkeeping. Dot process of the yep. So we want to not just keep track of all contacts, but the closest contact. Although this may change because now we care about different kinds of contacts for different reason. So it is possible. It is possible that we don't want that anymore. So get body, we would actually need the body. Because we're no longer an inner class. So this has got to be part of this. Okay. I recognize by cutting and pasting code, I'm not being very sort of illustrative with what I'm doing, because I'm taking old stuff and keeping it rather than writing it from scratch, but it is faster for me to do it that way. So yeah, so basically as we do the query, it's going to tell us about all these contacts. So far we're just adding all the contacts. We're ignoring what type they are. That's never going to fly. Because it's going to hit lots of things, because we're querying a much larger shape than the character. So we will definitely need to I actually think this is used only for debugging. The word contacts appears a lot of times in this file. This is one downside to doing this like in a live script environment, is that we end up with lots of code in a single file, which is just an awful way to develop. Okay, so contacts is not actually used for anything. It must be there just for debugging. But check to see if we even care about this contact by checking the probe shape contact type. So that's something we'll have to add. Facing or not depends on, yeah, it's the facing of the normal towards us. Yeah. And so we don't need this too close. It's going to take some okay, so it's behind us. And so then we check the distance squared. And so if it's less than the closest contact we've got so far, we keep track of it. We want to turn away from the closest contact. It's not necessarily the best way to do it. It is a way, though. So this is where we would calculate the steering. And I'll just get rid of this. So if side is 1, then object is relatively far to the left, but if side is 0.1, it's relatively close in our sight line. Sort of the opposite of what we want. Also, negative numbers are also our objects to the right. Turning right is negative x, turning left is positive x. Good to know. And so this makes sure we're not above 1.0, and yeah, and so basically we take the absolute value and we make sure it's between 0 and 1, but flipped. So -1 to, so yeah, so flipped backwards. And then we reaffirm the sign in the opposite direction. Straightforward. So speed will be a percentage of whatever regular steering wanted. Yeah, because we use it that way. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that when... Yeah, what am I saying here? If side is 1, then the object is relatively far to the left. But side of 0.1, it's really close in our sight line. Yeah, so we care more about steering away from things that are directly in our path, right? If she's facing here, we care more about steering away from things that are close to her path rather than things that are way over here, right? So if we hit something way over here, we don't care about it as much. We really want to focus on these because that'll have her steer around them. And that's normally the opposite of steering, where like if this is over here, it's a large value, or if this is over here, it's a large value, when we want them to be inverted so that when they're close, they're the large values. When they're far, actually, it was probably better to draw this. You know, so she's here looking in this direction, and yeah, so like objects that are like right in her line of sight, we want those to be like maximum steering in the opposite direction. Whereas like objects that are way over here, you know, we don't really even care to steer away from them at all necessarily. Of course, they're all being hit by the probe, for example. But so we invert. Like normally, like this is a large value, so this would be like 1, and these would be very close to 0. But we want it to be the opposite, where this is 0 and this is very close to 1. And not only that, we want it to steer the opposite way of what we found. We're not trying to get towards it. We're trying to get away from it. And so that's what this is doing. It's basically taking the absolute value and clamping it between 0 and 1, but flipping it so that when it was 1 before, it's 0 now, 0 before, it's 1 now. And then if the original value was greater than 0, meaning that was, you know, to the left side, then we want to turn to the right, and so we'll flip it around. Otherwise, it's already sort of in the right direction. And so that sets the steering based on this probe. And then when we, so then the probe itself was using contact avoidance, and the reason we got to delete a bunch of stuff, so this was creating the ghost shape, which we don't need anymore. Yeah, so this was using the shape of the body itself as the query. And so it didn't need that. I actually think this could be a function of how we call it. Yes, so we just called contact avoidance directly for the steering calculation. The offset is not equal to null. We don't have an offset anymore. But we used to take the offset and local to world. Local to world, so it takes a us relative position and turns it into world space and stores it into position. So this was basically finding the position in the world of the probe relative to the body. So if offset was just 0, 0, 1, when we did this, it would find out what the 1 meter distance in front of her was, and that'd be the point there in world space. We will still need something like that. But it's not clear what. We don't need any of this anymore. Yeah, that's what I thought. One too many. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so this is interesting. We still want something like this. This is making sure that we are at least one of the bodies. Let me just let me pretend like I'm making both of these work. I'm going to combine them in a second. Neither of these will work as is, but I'm trying to keep track of what's going on here in a way that it would compile if I ran it. So we filter out. Okay, so that essentially does almost nothing. It sets the position, and it's the collar that's doing something different. So the collar would be doing something with this position. I think we put maybe too much logic into the collar. That's here, where we do, so this is just a plain solid contact avoidance where we calculate the steering, but this contact avoidance got all of the contacts that the body got. We probably could have also, right, somewhere in here, yeah, this is where we send it to the near steering, but we've already pre-filtered it. So that is something we'll stop doing. Yeah, I think we can do everything we want with the probe. And potentially just have 2 probes. Anyway, well, the thing is, like, the physics engine is already telling us about our own contacts. So I think that's why we did it that way. Yeah, we may still want that. We'll see. I'm going to try to get away with just a probe. And so this is where the magic happens, where we're telling, we could have moved this into the probe itself. Just pass the physics space to the probe and let it work it out. That's probably the best way. So let's think about that. The probe has a position. I think I am going to give it an offset back, but it's going to be an offset that we set whenever a new set distance, double distance. So offset z equals distance. So basically we can set the probe to be some distance ahead of the character, based on how fast they're walking or whatever. And then we could just say update contacts or query physics, query contacts. Let's just call it query contacts, and where we pass the, I think it's actually just physics space. I was a bit inconsistent with how I, yeah, just physics space. Prefixed things. So phys query contacts, our position, our orientation, our shape, which we will pass in instead that's really the only thing we, oh, I didn't actually save these, and this will need it too. This avoidance equals new context avoidance body, and I don't think I did it up here either. Yep, I did actually. Okay, cool. And this body, okay, shape, filter, this, we are the probe. We are the probe. Okay, and so for here, this is where we'll want to calculate the position we were doing here. No, we can do that still in reset for now. Offset's never going to be null. Body local to world, offset position, and then we want to say orientation.set body orientation. So we use the same orientation. And then reset avoidance. Let's see if it compiles. No, it does not. I think one of these days I'm going to walk back and watch to see how I managed to remove this curly brace at the end of the constructors. Because I do it all the time, and I don't know how it happens. I'm pretty sure it's me, but it could be my editor. Has it ever happened in another editor? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Okay, so we've got a basic probe that's not doing anything helpful. Okay, so here is where maybe we just want to leave this the way it is and do before we pass it on, we'll do the contact type. I think we want to avoid anything that is one of those, if we don't have a ground, we want to consider that a blocker. And is that going to help? Yeah, because we dot based on the hard directions. No up down involved. So I think by default we'd try to steer away from everything. And for anything, so for anything ground or below, we actually want the opposite, is if we don't get a hit, we consider it a block. Yeah, so I think the logic here is if it's a step up, jump, or block, let it through as a blocker. Yeah, how do we send the lack of a hit? If it's a ground, if there is no ground contact, to consider that a block. It's a step up, step down. So if it's a step down, but there is also a ground, ignore it. Otherwise, we can just let it go through. But when there's no, if there's no ground contact, we want to consider that a block, but we don't have a contact to send it. So what would we say? That we would have to keep track of that here and consider that in the steering calculation. Essentially, for that to be true, let's say we're up here. Yeah, so this is a weird one because we would have to be almost completely falling off the edge in order to get a a drop. Otherwise, we'll still have the contact. Now, her contact bubble is a is like got a width, and so technically we'll have left contacts and right contacts. We could use that. Like if we don't have a left and a right, that might be worth doing. May have to keep track of if we see contacts from the left set of blocks or the right set of blocks. Okay, but at least for now, we might be able to work at least for just to ignore all the ground contacts completely, and then just steer away from things that are going to get in our way. So maybe we want to pass the distance to reset, and we can set it to the speed. Nah, it's okay if we have it as a separate call. Alright, so then so we'll want to make a probe down here in the new agent driver. Private probe, and then when we okay. I guess we don't even get created until, okay, so then start probe equals new probe, Do I not get the body? Driver, not body. So we just pass body because we've got it. We keeping it. We be keeping it. And then the shape is the body shape probe shape. So the shape will be a rig shape, and it is a probe shape. Cool. All right. So that's to set the probe up, and that should still compile. Okay. And then an update where we update the steering. Fortunately, I moved that to its own little method here. We will want to turn this into an else if. Because whatever steering they told us, we probably want to update the probe. So first we're just going to set the probe to be probe set distance, like just a little in front of us, and then probe reset. And let me look at the original code again, which, if the probe is not equal to null, then we always calculate and calculate the steering, and then we'll want, so we'll want something like this. Yes, we'll have a separate probe movement input. So where's our existing agent movement input? Private. Actually, what does it take? Agent movement input. What do you know? Probe movement input equals new agent movement input. And so then down here, we will say if the probe said to move at all, then we will do these combining things that I did before. And we got to change that because that's a different thing. Yeah, S in this case counts for steering. Okay, so that should do its thing. And we get all kinds of badness. No signature method, get body. Of course not. 744. Because you already have it, you don't need to do anything. Okay. Okay. Oh man, my stomach is grumbling. I don't know if you guys could hear that. Went. I didn't really eat lunch today, and I have not had dinner yet. So the thing is, it should have been trying to steer. I am not sure why it's not. Are we being called? Let's add a log, because I'm going to be constantly logger factory get logger. The project I work on during the day for, you know, when they pay me for, they have rolled their own logging wrapper, as everybody has at one time or another. I long ago switched to SLF4J and don't worry about it anymore, but so I have to remember how to do it again. We never call query contacts, so we will never have steering because we need to call probe query contacts here, and we need to pass it the physics space. Oh yeah, the tummy is really grumbling. Somebody has the physics space. They must. Oop, not you. We're passing it in. So we need yet another thing in here. That's something I'm going to have to work out. And then we want to set it. And then down here. Oh man, I'm so hungry. Physics. Okay, and now if I checked my log up here. Yeah, so we should start seeing a bunch of stuff streaming here, or it'll fail to compile. It'll fail to compile. That's good. Okay. Get at, okay. New contact. 756. Relative set. Body. Another get body. Double check anymore. Okay, so now we should get a bunch of streaming stuff that I'm gonna have to quickly stop. Oop, nope, still fails. No such your method contact is where get body is up. Okay, where do we still have a get body? Aha! And that's the last one. It was trying to run that. Yeah, okay, so now we get like all kinds of contacts, and so she's steering like crazy because she's seeing all those ground contacts. So let's undo this, and we'll temporarily turn, just return, because we want her to stop being schizophrenic. There, she's not spasming anymore. Okay. Now, I don't think contact debugging is something we'll get done tonight, but maybe, because I don't know how else we're going to verify that it's really working. Probably after calculate steering, we could do some debug visualization. Yeah, see, those logs are still going because we got way ahead. So I have plenty of time to think about this. Let me look at the code for the nav stuff because it's already doing a whole bunch of physics checks. Yeah, so this is the tricky part here. where in order to get the type, okay, so we don't really know. A contact is a contact between two bodies, but we don't know whether we are body 1 or body 2 because the physics engine decides based on a couple different things whether we're going to be, if we hit an actual another object, right? We're both physics bodies versus the world. You know, when we're the world, we're always body 1, and the world is, there's no body 2. But sometimes when two objects collide, we so the only body with a null ID should be the query shape. So if the second shape has a null ID, then we need to swap. So if the hit body is null, then the real body 2 is body 1, and we flip them around. So if we were body 2 instead of body 1, we flip them around so that we know where we hit, what the probe hit type was. And then here we could, I'm going to have to kill this because it was never going to catch up. I watched an interesting video recently from another game developer, and they were talking about, oh wow, I've got a, this is probably hit for class probe. Line 860. They were talking about how they had to remove a whole, so they started down this path of, there we go, 860. Yeah, so contact. They wanted to make in their game they want to give player complete agency, which is something I 100% agree with, because that's Mythruna's idea, that you have complete agency to do whatever you want. If you want to burn the town down to the ground, so be it, then that town won't be there anymore. And you'll probably have a reputation that spreads around the world of someone who burned down a town. You may screw up your whole game. But they brought up an interesting point. They wanted to make sure that their player could do whatever. If they wanted to kill an important NPC, they could do that, assuming they could do it, and get in trouble for murder or whatever. But then they said their towns had children in them, and they basically absolutely would not let the player kill children. I guess even Red Dead Redemption makes children invulnerable, which leads to this weird thing where you're taking away player agency again. And I hadn't really thought about it, and now I'm like, because I had planned to have, so they took children out of their game completely because they didn't want to break the immersion of having, complete control of what goes on. And so that's been something that's been on my mind a lot lately, because I had planned to have children in Mythruna and have them grow up to be adults and so on and so forth, have their own children, and eventually, right, towns that evolve. But yeah, that's an interesting dilemma. I don't know if it's actually illegal to make a game where you kill children, but I assume that there's probably some law somewhere that makes that not a good idea, but it's just not a good idea anyway. And so then, if you aren't going to let the player do that one thing, I already have to deal with player agency in a weird way. When you're carrying a build wand that can literally destroy any block in the game, it's like in Minecraft, like the first time I hit a jungle temple, I basically just disassembled the parts I didn't understand and went around it. In Mythruna, I'd rather the players didn't disassemble things, and since their build wand is like a magic thing there will be places in the world where it doesn't work, and so that will be a game mechanic. And so if they go down, so if they're in a dungeon, their build wand may not work. They can still take a pickaxe and disassemble the dungeon if they want to, but it's going to take them a long time. So they've got some incentive to do the dungeon, quote unquote, the right way. So there is that I'm already taking some agency away, but I'm trying to make it a game mechanic, because the idea being is once you've completed the dungeon, you could destroy whatever crystal or mechanism was preventing you from using your build wand, and then you have complete control over you could repurpose the dungeon as your own house if you wanted, because you've got complete control again. And similarly, towns will be protected by some kind of magic deadening to prevent you from just like wholesale removing blocks from the town. Anyway, unless it's your town, right? But where's I'm doing? Okay, so then I think we compiled, so things are not failing anymore. Right. Okay, so we should be able to log the probe hit type. And we should be able to log reset. So anyway, if you end up, or as someone who watches this video later and you have an opinion on that, I'd leave a comment in the video if you're not here to talk about it in the chat. I'd be interested to see what people think about that. Yeah, Mythruna will, so we have a bunch of here. Mythruna, 1s are blocks, 5 is ground, I think. I have to look them up. But it's working. Mythruna does have the idea of gods and an afterlife and so on and so forth. So it is possible that I could just make it so attempting to kill a child brings down divine retribution. But again, these have consequences because the things that happen in Mythruna will all have a side effect. Like if divine retribution comes down upon you, it's like a big giant lightning bolt. It's likely to destroy some things around you, and then it becomes a game mechanic that you kill a child because you're trying to destroy something. Anyway, it's bad news. Depends on what you mean. I have strong opinions on XP and why that leads to grindy games. So yes, there will be progression. It will not be through XP. So do encourage exploration and adventuring. You will be able to improve your character, but by the things you build and by the things you find. So if you get stronger, it'll be because you got the thing to plug into yourself that makes you stronger. That kind of thing. I don't think there'll be improvable stats in the sense that you can't just jump around the town to gain agility experience. None of that. Because the thing is, like, it leads to grinding. If to get better at making daggers, you have to make 100 daggers, then you just had to make the player make 100 daggers. And I want making one dagger to be engaging and something you could do if you had the right tools and you had already done it before. If you have to make 4 or 5 daggers, it should be because the mini game is tricky and engaging in a way that you were trying to make a better dagger because you, the player, screwed up, not because of some dice roll. There may be some randomness built into the concept. Materials are not perfect and so on and so forth, but you as a player who has been around the world a bunch should be able to have the experience to make a dagger the right way the first time without having to make 100 daggers. I just don't like that kind of gameplay personally. And if you're going to grind in Mythruna, I'd rather you grind walking around looking at stuff, turning over rocks and finding some new cool dungeon that's a particular configuration, right? I'd rather that be, or, you know, I want sort of career paths that you can explore. If you want to make a town, you make a town. If you want to run your own airship and navigate the world that way, making maps that you can sell, you know, these kinds of things I really want. And if you need to improve your airship, you would have to find the parts or learn to make the parts, that kind of thing. But I find killing 500 badgers so that I get 30 XP to get to the next level, you know, it's just, I don't know. I think that is the root of all sort of gameplay grindiness is XP. And you've got games like Baldur's Gate 3 which get around that by just heaping XP on you for completing quests. And that's all good. So you don't have to just go grind killing goblins all day, but in a game where quests themselves are going to be generated to a certain extent, although based on, there would be more complicated sort of archetypes of quests that will be more complicated, but they'll still be generated. You know, I just don't know how engaging I can make a quest that pops 10,000 points on you without it feeling cheap. And so I have, you know, a long time ago I just decided Mythruna will not have XP, will not have skill points, then none of that stuff. There will be equivalent ways to improve your character. I don't know if that answered your question, but you will definitely gain abilities as you go through, but it'll be because you found better materials, or you found you know, sort of the magic wafers you can plug into your own body to give yourself advanced abilities, or wafers that you can plug into your weapons, so that, you know, you might have spent all this time crafting this perfect sword for yourself. And by all this time, I mean finding the right materials, learning how to make that particular shape, or whatever the crafting mini game is. And then beyond that, you know, you picked the material you liked, you picked the shape you liked, you did all the things, and then you can try to find the enhancements to make it like a flaming sword or a lightning sword or whatever. You can find the ways to sort of chip the sword and make it better, that kind of thing. I didn't finish more. Yeah. Plus, like, and from my perspective, like, exploration is part of the game that is already kind of enticing. Every time I boot up a new world, I spend like a half hour, 45 minutes just exploring around, and the world generation is nowhere near complete, and it doesn't even generate, I mean, it generates okay, interesting terrain, but there's not anything to do yet. And I just feel like if there are things to do, and the towns have like meaning and relationships to other towns, and the things around the towns have relationships to the towns, I just feel like exploration will be a key draw. And if you don't like, you know, if you're not the type of person that wants to see what's over the next hill, Mythruna might not be the game for you. But if you are the type of person that wants to see what's over the next hill, I have a feeling that my version of Mythruna, my vision for it, will be right up your alley. You know, and then to get the enhancements you need to be safe when you go over that hill, and those kinds of things, to figure out how to be better at what you do. But you should be able to take that knowledge into the next world. So if you generate a world with a new seed, you come equipped with all the game knowledge on how the world works, beyond whatever gets randomized. And it's not clear how much randomization I'll do. Like, I don't know if I'll go all the way to like a rogue, where even like the potions are, you know, you can't tell. A pink potion is maybe poison in one version, and, you know, healing potion in another. I don't know how far I'll go with like magic reagents, but the thing is, I also want to base a lot of, you know, the magic and the reagents on, you know, science that we already know. So there's some intuition that, you know, if you combine things in a certain way, you get a certain result, because if we had this kind of magic in the real world, that's probably how it would work, that kind of thing. So so then it doesn't leave a lot of room for randomization. Like in the real world, willow bark has, you know, basically the source of aspirin, And so in Mythruna, I can't make reagents random because I want you to be able to scrape off willow bark and use that in your healing potion, because probably it would be an enhancement, that kind of thing. There should be some logic to it. And I can't necessarily reset the logic for every world, so. So probe hit type. So we would got a little off track there, but I was going to look up what each type means. Where do I encode that? I mean, it's encoded here, but not in a very readable way. If it's 1, if it's 1, I already know it's a block. If it's 3, it's a step up. If it's 4, it's a jump up. 2 is a step down. And so yeah, 5 must be a ground hit. And yeah, 5, we already handled this one in the previous loop. So 5, I checked world blocking contact. Then we check to see if we're going to. So 5 is ground. I'm going to put a little key here. 5 is ground. 4 is jump up, I think. There was a logic and a reason for this, but I just don't remember them anymore. Step up. 2, step down. 1, block. So for our case, for now, I think if it's less than, if hit probe hit type is less or is equal to 5, or probe hit type is equal to 2, ignore it for now. Return. And I think then we can do this, and things should kind of be working. I don't think she should be schizophrenic. She's not spasming. That's a good sign. I think that the probe will engage even when I'm manually controlling her. Let's see. Yep. Yep. That's pretty cool, actually. It's trying to take me in my original direction, right? So you don't know. So I'm facing a particular way, and so that is the way she's going to want to steer. And so if I send her in that direction, it tries to steer her away, and it's still going to try to take me back in that original direction. So that is kind of neat, actually. Yeah, so she's going in a complete wrong direction. She keeps trying to turn back. I'm still trying to head completely in the opposite direction. And so it's funny because I'm just hitting the up arrow, or W, and she will eventually get to where she originally wanted to be. That's kind of cool, actually. It's working. It's yeah, interesting. Yeah, so she should like navigate. Nice. I mean, it's a little jittery from our direct perspective, but that means finally. So if I go work and we follow her, this was always a problem going straight from work to bed, is she would get stuck. Oh, yeah. She did a little spin at the door. That's right. We need to be able to turn it off and on. She can't actually make it all the way there. I think she's going to fail. Or she's... Oh, no. What it is she is standing there. Because we don't pull a probe in, she keeps hitting... Yeah, so she hits it and she turns the other way. She hits it, turns the other way, hits it, turns the other way, and so on and so forth. That's funny. So let me turn Just a little bit and escape. Yeah, she's good now. And so let's send her to sleep. And this used to not work. Because she'd get caught on the stairs out there. The weird bridge stairs. So she'd calculate a path right here and get caught. Right, now she should steer around it. Well, she didn't get caught either. So, cancel. Okay. How do I make her get caught? Yes, unfortunately it'll let me jump down. So let me see if this would hit the problem. Brain. That's nice that that worked. Oh, nope. Just cancel. I did it the wrong way. I wanted her to go to sleep. I think I'm still following. Yep. So let's see if she calculated. Nope, she did a better path this time too. I think she does steer around it. We'd have to turn it off to be sure. Don't go through the door. But she can still navigate. Actually, I want to see if she can navigate all the way upstairs, because I want to make sure she can still get through the stairs. She gets caught in the doors. So he's got to turn off contact avoidance on the doors. Oh yeah, so she gets weird here too. Yeah, so definitely we need to pull back. She's never going to make it. So, yeah. So that's an issue. We already knew we had that issue. She's got a constant distance, and that distance needs to vary with her speed. And like for things like the step up action, we need to turn it off completely, that kind of thing. But in principle, it's working. And so, probably we want to we're going to drive ourselves crazy if we don't have some kind of mechanism to debug the shape. And so I shall do that next. Before we start tackling making the stairs work, it's just going to be impossible because I don't know. I can't. I don't. We're going to want to know how far the probe shape is in front of her, and so on and so forth. So, better add that debugging. Pepsi is all gone. Okay. So I said somewhere. I don't. Yeah, here it is. It's like Pavlov's dogs here. No, but we want to do this in the reset. Whenever I finish a Pepsi, I want to eat a piece of gum so bad. It's just because I'm used to it. I do it all the time. So I really want to pop a piece of gum in right now. I just don't think chewing in the microphone is something you guys want to hear. Although I have even been chewing gum while singing before, and I'm not sure people knew. Just chew with my mouth closed. Like a civilized human. What do we want to do? We've got some nifty debug stuff here we could probably tap into. Because we have a shape helpers. Lets us create a shape view. Yep. And so we will want to have access to that. And I will just call this create view. No, yeah, that's fine. Return create shape view layer shape. And then we have to set this down here. That's what it's called, right? Create shape view, yes. And then set shape view position doesn't do much. We could probably just copy it. First, let's see if this compiles or if I did something wrong. Indubitably, it does. Okay. And create shape view does not put it in any particular position. Correct. Okay. Then in here, when we do it, we want to add it to debug entities. When does debug entities get cleared? Okay, it is. Okay, so we just want to make sure that when we reset the visualization, when we reset the script, it will remove the old. So if in case something bad happens, it'll still remove that view. Otherwise, we end up with garbage. Okay. Now we can say brain debug create view, and we can do that in the probe itself. When we create the probe, where is it? Here. So we can have debug view, and then in here we can actually say they called brain debug. Yeah, okay. This debug view equals brain debug create view probe shape. All right. And then in here, we want to draw it, and we will just cut and paste this code. Oh, we're going to need the entity data. Nope, we are not going to cut and paste the code. We're going to make a brain debug set view position, and we're going to say debug view position orientation. So we will add another one, yeah, because we got everything we have, everything we need up here. Public static set void set view position. This is all because inside the real classes, like I don't have access to the global variables that I've created, so I don't have any don't have access to any of the helper methods, and so I created this brain debug thing, which can like be provided with the reference to those helpers, so that other classes can call, you know, brain debug static methods, and it knows it's already been set up. Vec3D position quat d orientation procrastination. All right, and we will make it like that. We don't need that right there. We got to spell it out. Position Orientation. Alright. It should be working. It didn't fail. Ooh! Look at that! We got a probe debug right there. And as we walk around, it should follow us. Yep. Sure enough. Sure enough. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Alright. And so, if we were to, for example, come down here, and in the calculates, no, we gotta go further down. Calculate steering for the body, which is update steering. It's way down here. So if we made this smaller, we should see it get closer. Yeah, okay, it helps if I actually, next thing. So that is when it's 0.1, so it's 10 centimeters ahead of us. This is right on top of us. In a second. There we go. So that's like, so this is where we can set the how far ahead of us it goes. Do we keep track of our speed? Speed. I am speed. I think it is the movement mode average speed. Yeah, I just get average speed. So if we set the distance to the average speed times 10% maybe. Now as we walk around, so we're sitting still, we don't have anything at all, but as we walk around it should move in front of us. Yeah, look at that. And so we, yeah, so there we go, and it's trying to steer around. So I'm gonna head straight over towards that right chair, and it'll steer around whatever's getting in my way. And you know, of course now I can turn and face the chair, and it'll eventually, you know, yeah. So like, that's pretty cool. Actually, that's pretty cool. Okay. So that part's working, and that means as it slows down to get to these kinds of places, it can get closer, right? I don't think that alone will solve our problem, but let's see how it does on the stairs now. So brain start braining. Oh, hello. Follow. Just calculating the path. Okay, walk in the path. Oh yeah, it didn't even spin around when it hit the door. Nice. Yeah, so there's a steering issue where lack of input, it spins around, but she got up there. That is the key. Okay, now it still doesn't do anything when we're going down the stairs, so it just walks down. Boink, 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 boink. She should be able to get back to work, though. Oh, she did do a little spin there at the door. So we got to set the offset to 0, or turn off the probe for certain cases, or ignore certain objects. But we're getting there. It's so much better than it was. Oh yeah, look at that. So is she gonna get here and stop? She did. And she's not spinning around. Can she make a dagger? Should we try to make a dagger? Let's see. Dagger. Make a dagger. She's gonna get stuff out of there. Come back over here. Clang clang. Oh, the clang clang didn't come. She made a dagger, though. Okay, there she goes. Alright. Head back out to the anvil. She made it out here. It's ugly, but she made it. Okay, so now she's stuck. Actually, I don't think this is a probe problem. I think she's got like some residual steering input hanging out. Like I think if I cancel, yeah. So it's just that things don't zero out the steering input, and so it's like she's sitting there with, you know, like if you had your joystick cocked over to the side and she's just sitting there with her joystick spinning. Okay, let's try to make another dagger. She just should still, yeah, she's got to go over to this one, and she didn't get stuck. A lot of times she gets stuck on that chest. So she's going to put this away. She's carrying the dagger up there. Uh-oh. There, she made it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's head back out to the anvil, see if she does the spinny thing again. Yep. So that's going to be about debugging that movement input. There's some path where it doesn't get zeroed out. It's possible that it's the probe movement input that's keeping values around. So that's something I'm going to have to debug. It looks dumb, but it's, I mean, it's technically functional. All right. All right. So one thing we don't have yet is, okay, I gotta like get out. So brain, take me home, but don't actually take me home. Just take me out the door. There we go. Okay, so cancel, because I want to control you and I want to go up the hill. Are you going to let me go up the hill? No. You are not going to let me go up the hill because of the probe. Never mind, I can't test that. I was just going to show that if I'm up on the ledge up there, it was just going to let me walk right off, and that's something that we want to fix as well. Oh, but you know what I can do? What else I can test real quick? I'm going to do two things. I'm going to make a Gayfin and show that the Gayfin can walk under things. So we'll control the Gayfin. And so blink, 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 blink. So see, Gayfin can walk right under. It's a little less schizophrenic too. So yeah, that's fun. And it can actually go over things. Yeah, because its probe shape is set up a little better. You can see its probe shape. Oh, wrong thing. I'm still centered on her. Stop following her. You can see its probe shape has a bigger green section, which lets it walk up ramps like this, whereas Fades is really, or the Mythruna girl is really close to the ground. So I can mix with the offsets, but then it raises her head up above where her head actually is. So I mean, this is not the perfect approach using the cells this way, because the only way I can get like better layer here is to increase the resolution, which increases the work that the query probe has to do. What I really need is capsule shapes, or something, you know, sufficiently sufficiently cheap to query. I don't have capsule shapes implemented in the physics engine yet, but it's working, and that's pretty cool. So the dog should be weird. Oops, cancel. Cancel. I want to create a dog. Dog should be a little weird, because his shape is a little bizarre. Let's see what he'll do. Oh, and his, I think his walk speed versus animation speed's messed up, because he's doing a, that's interesting. We got, yeah, so that's not bad. Will he walk over ramps? Nope. Yeah, kind of. He can walk over ramps a little bit. He should be able to go under here. Yeah, so that's something that the Gafen should be able to do as well, like walk under here. Let's check. Let's see, this is the Gafen, I think. Control. Yep. So the Gafen should be able to walk under this set of stairs here. Oh, no, just barely can't. Okay, so that's something I'll have to fix, because in reality, a Gafen can walk under. But it's trying to steer away. So there's a maybe the ability, maybe I need to drop its offset a little bit. All right. So that's going on there. And I'll end it with a so that's like a good place to stop development. I'm going to run Mythruna real quick. I'll show you the really weird looking elf I made and his fur shorts, because I think it's good to end the video with a picture of the actual game instead of the overly sanitized light of the prototype. One thing is, I found a bug. I was like, I've been looking for a good example of this for a long time, but there's a whole town that generated over a cave system, and so the town is just floating in space, and so I finally have like a really good example of where the world generation is failing. So I need to decide how I'm going to fix that, but I actually put a proper bug in for it with like actual details. But that's where we are right now, and you'll see this town is crazy. Yeah, that's Quinitave, his randomly generated name. All right. Come on. Come on, we can do it. All right. So yeah, see, the town is generated right over a cave system. What time of day is it? Oh, it's nighttime. Let's there we go. A little bit of golden hour. No, I guess the sun's directly overhead. Yeah, so here's my character. He's kind of a blue. I was trying to think of something that looked sinister. And so the thing is, like, if I start putting bad guys in the game, it's going to be nearly impossible to tell the difference between an NPC you should kill and an NPC you shouldn't kill without some kind of clear indicator. And so I'm trying to come up with some, like, bandits will attack you, but you don't know if that's just another NPC on the road. And before I start adding sort of ambiguous things in, I wanted to have like some clear cases of this is definitely a bad guy kind of thing. But I don't have a lore-related story for this at all, so I'm tempted to not do it and just create real bandits, and just have it be obvious by their style of dress or something. Because that's what it started out as. I was going to boot up and I was going to start making some bandit clothing, and then I was like, well, maybe I could just see if I can create something that looks really off. So perhaps there's some like demonoids or something that they're in the game because the game's not complete, kind of. That's the lore. World generation is broken, it's not complete, and so like these demonoids are able to slip in from the other realm or something. Anyway, I think it's cool that you can make a character like this. Anyway, all right, that's where I'm going to end it tonight, guys. Thanks for hanging out, all one of you who are still around. And it was a productive evening. I got a lot done, so I'm looking forward to the rest of the weekend where I can get some more stuff done. And, thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, etc. In fact, I can hit the button that says that. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Comment on the video if you have opinions on what I talked about related to player agency and so on. And I hope if you're working on something creative, you have a very productive week, and I will see you next weekend. Thanks, guys.